She thought it would be funny to tell her bridesmaids, "If he cries at the altar, I'll walk away." They all screamed with laughter. I heard everything. On the wedding day, they were the ones crying when the ceremony never happened. I'm writing this from a hotel suite that was supposed to be my honeymoon suite. The champagne is cold, the view of the ocean is perfect, and the king-size bed is ridiculously comfortable. It's also completely empty, except for me. And honestly, I've never felt more at peace. 3 days ago, I was supposed to get married. Instead, I produced the most satisfying, most expensive, and shortest-running theatrical performance of my entire career. The show closed on opening night, and the cast is still crying. It all started, as these things often do, with a single, carelessly spoken line. It was the night of our rehearsal dinner, the final run-through before the big show. I was standing just outside the private dining room, on the phone with my production accountant, finalizing the last of the payments for the wedding. My fiancée, Jessica, was inside with her bridesmaids, a coven of women who smiled with their teeth and judged with their eyes. Her maid of honor and best friend, a particularly venomous woman named Olivia, was the ringleader. I finished my call and walked back towards the room. The door was slightly ajar. I could hear them all laughing inside, that high-pitched, sharp-edged laughter that means a joke has been made at someone's expense. As I reached for the door handle, I heard Olivia's voice, clear as a bell. "But seriously, Jess, are you nervous at all? About the finality of it all?" And then came Jessica's reply, the line that detonated my entire world. She sighed, a dramatic, long-suffering sound, and said, "Oh God, I'm mostly just nervous he's going to cry at the altar. Can you imagine how embarrassing that would be? If he starts blubbering, I swear to God, I'll turn around and walk away." The room exploded. Not just laughter, but shrieks of delight. It was the funniest thing they had ever heard. The idea of me, their stable, reliable, emotional rock, showing a moment of genuine vulnerability, was so hilarious that it was cause for celebration. And her response to threaten public humiliation in that sacred moment was seen as the ultimate power move. I stood there, hidden by the door, and I didn't feel a thing. No anger, no sadness, no shock. It was the kind of profound, icy clarity I get in the final moments before a show opens, when I can see the entire production laid out in my mind, and I know, with absolute certainty, that a critical set piece is about to fail. Let me be clear. I am not a wimp. I am not a doormat. I am a theatrical producer and director. My entire life is about creating and controlling a narrative. I manage million-dollar budgets, command crews of hundreds, and I take a simple idea written on a page and turn it into a living, breathing spectacle. I understand lighting, sound, staging, and most importantly, I understand audiences. I know how to make them feel exactly what I want them to feel. My relationship with Jessica had been a 2-year production. I had met her when she was a struggling actress. I was captivated by her ambition and what I thought was a deep, untapped well of talent. I wasn't a simp paying her bills, I was an investor. I saw her as a leading lady in the making. I took her on as my personal project. I paid for new headshots, I funded acting classes with the best coaches in the city. I used my connections to get her auditions she could never have dreamed of. I was producing the story of her success. Our engagement wasn't just a romance. It was the logical next step in our co-production. For 2 years I had ignored the warning signs. I saw her growing entitlement, her casual cruelty disguised as jokes, and the toxic influence of Olivia and her other friends. I saw it all as the behavior of a starlet finding her footing. I thought I could direct her away from her worst impulses. I thought I could cultivate the talent and edit out the flaws. That comment, overheard through a crack in a door, was my final production note. It was the moment I realized I had made a catastrophic casting error. The actress wasn't just flawed, she was fundamentally miscast in the role of a loving partner. The production was a guaranteed flop, and a good producer never ever lets a doomed show open. You don't just cancel it, you shut it down, you recoup your losses, and you make damn sure the people responsible for the failure understand the consequences. I didn't go back into the room. I turned around, walked out of the restaurant, and got in a taxi. As I rode home, I wasn't thinking about our relationship. I was rewriting the script for the final act of our production. The wedding was still happening, but the story had changed. It was no longer a romance. It was a tragedy. and the bridesmaids were about to give the performance of their lives. Update 1. The 24 hours between the rehearsal dinner and the wedding morning were the most intense, focused, and creative period of my professional life. I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. I just worked. I was a man possessed by a new radical vision for my show. The first thing I did when I got back to my apartment was go into my office and lock the door. I had a complete production Bible for the wedding. A massive binder with every contract, every invoice, every contact number, every schedule. It was the blueprint for the event. It was now the blueprint for my revenge. My first call was to my best man, my brother Mark. I told him everything. He wasn't surprised. He'd never liked Jessica, and he'd loathed Olivia for years. He listened patiently, and when I was done, he just said, "What do you need me to do, brother? I'm your stage manager." With my key ally in place, I began to systematically dismantle and reassemble the entire wedding day. The theme was no longer happily ever after. The new theme was consequences. The bridesmaids were my primary target. They had laughed at my potential emotional pain. My goal was to orchestrate a morning of pure, unadulterated, logistical, and emotional distress for them, while Jessica remained blissfully unaware. At 2 a.m., I started making calls. First, I called the luxury transport company I had hired to shuttle the bridal party around in a white stretch limo. I canceled the limo. Then I called a local, notoriously unreliable taxi service and booked 3 standard, slightly grimy cabs to arrive at their hotel an hour later than the original limo was scheduled. Next, the hair and makeup team. I had hired the best in the city, a team of 4 artists who were scheduled to arrive at the bridal suite at 8 a.m. I called the lead artist, a woman I knew from a previous show. I explained there was a catastrophic scheduling error and that I needed her and her entire team at my hotel for my mother and my aunts at 7 a.m. sharp. I doubled her fee for the inconvenience. I then hired a single, barely out of beauty school student from a Craigslist ad to go to the bridal suite at 9 a.m. Her instructions were to do her best. The bridesmaid dresses. They were beautiful, custom-designed silk gowns that had cost a small fortune. They had been delivered to my apartment a week prior. I had them all, hanging in a spare room. At 4 a.m., I took a pair of scissors. I didn't destroy them. That would be too obvious. I just made a series of small, precise, and utterly ruinous cuts. A small 2-inch slice along the zipper seam of one. A subtle but irreparable tear in the shoulder of another. I did this to all 5 dresses. Then I repackaged them in their garment bags, ready for delivery. The final touch for the morning was the food and drink. I had arranged for a beautiful spread of pastries, fruit, and expensive champagne to be delivered to their suite. I canceled it. In its place, I ordered 5 lukewarm coffees and a single sad-looking box of gas station donuts. While these logistical bombs were being planted, I focused on the main event, the ceremony itself. The venue was a stunning old theater I had booked, a place where I had staged my first successful play. The symbolism was perfect. I called my production crew, my lighting designer, my sound engineer, my video team. I told them there was a last-minute, radical change to the show's concept. I paid them each a handsome bonus for their flexibility and their silence. We worked through the night, redesigning the entire production. The wedding video, which was supposed to be a heartwarming montage of photos of me and Jessica, was scrapped. In its place, my video editor and I created something new. I had a secret weapon. A few months ago, I had installed a series of high-quality, voice-activated audio recorders in our apartment. It was a security measure. I work with a lot of high-profile, sometimes difficult artists, and I've learned to document everything. I had hours of audio of Jessica and Olivia talking about me, about the wedding, about their plans for my money after we were married. We spent the night editing the most damning clips into a 7-minute audio montage, a highlight reel of their greed and contempt. This audio would be the centerpiece of the new ceremony. By sunrise, the new show was ready. Every cue was planned, every light was programmed, every trap was set. I sent a final text to Mark. The house is open. Let the performance begin. Then I took a shower, put on my custom-made tuxedo, and waited. The frantic, confused texts from Jessica started arriving around 8:30 a.m. The makeup artists are an hour late. Did you cancel the champagne? They brought us donuts. Where are the dresses? The courier hasn't shown up yet. I replied to each one with calm, reassuring lies. Don't worry, darling, everything is under control. Just a few small hiccups. I'll handle it. I love you. I was directing my final scene with her, and she had no idea she was about to be written out of the show. Update 2. The morning of the wedding was, by all accounts, a logistical apocalypse for the bridal party. Mark, my brother, was my mole on the ground. He was feeding me real-time updates while pretending to be the frantic go-between, trying to fix all the problems. The beauty school student I'd hired for hair and makeup arrived an hour and a half late, armed with a tackle box of cheap drugstore makeup. The bridesmaids, who were used to the best, apparently almost had a collective aneurysm. There were tears. There was shouting. The student, to her credit, soldiered on, giving them makeup that Mark described as aggressively amateur. The dresses finally arrived, delivered by a courier I'd paid to get lost for 2 hours. The moment of discovery, when they zipped them up and found the carefully placed rips and tears, was, according to Mark, a symphony of shrieking. Olivia's zipper apparently split completely, leaving the back of her dress wide open. They had to be literally sewn into them with a hotel sewing kit. The 3 sad taxis showed up just as they were all on the verge of a complete meltdown. They piled into the cramped, coffee-stained back seats, their ruined silk dresses bunching up around them, their cheap makeup starting to run in the heat. All the while, I was at the theater, calm and collected. I greeted the guests as they arrived. My family, her family, our friends. Everyone was smiling, excited. They had no idea the show they were about to see was not the one they had bought tickets for. The ceremony was scheduled for 2 p.m. I had my crew hold the house doors until 2:15, letting the tension build. The guests were seated. The string quartet I had hired was playing softly. I walked to the altar and took my place. Mark stood beside me, giving me a small, almost imperceptible nod. At 2:20, the music changed. The traditional wedding march began to play. The huge, ornate doors at the back of the theater swung open, and there they were. Jessica, on her father's arm, looking beautiful, but visibly stressed. And behind her, the bridesmaids, a glorious tableau of misery. Their hair was slightly frizzy, their makeup was a disaster, and their dresses were clearly safety-pinned and stitched together. They looked like the cast of a tragedy that had been mugged on the way to the theater. They began their slow walk down the aisle. The guests smiled, oblivious to the drama. As they reached the front, the bridesmaids took their places. Olivia shot me a look of pure venom. She thought this was all just a series of unfortunate accidents. She still thought she was in control. Jessica arrived at the altar. Her father placed her hand in mine. She gave me a tight, angry smile. "You have a lot of explaining to do," she whispered. "I know," I said and squeezed her hand. I turned to the officiant, an actor I had hired the day before. He smiled benevolently at the crowd. "Welcome, friends and family," he began. "We are gathered here today to witness a performance. A story of love, ambition, and the high cost of a bad investment." A confused murmur rippled through the crowd. Jessica's smile vanished. She looked at me, her eyes wide with confusion. I gave a small signal to my sound engineer in the booth at the back of the theater. The lights in the house dimmed, and a single, harsh spotlight hit Jessica and her bridesmaids. Then the sound of her own voice filled the theater, crisp and clear through the state-of-the-art sound system. It was the audio montage. The first clip was her, talking to Olivia on the phone a month ago. "Of course I don't love him like I love Derek, but he's stable. He's a good provider. Think of it as a stepping stone." The guests gasped. Jessica's face went white. She tried to pull her hand away, but I held it fast. The next clip was Olivia's voice. "Just make sure you get your name on the house deed before you have kids. My lawyer said that's the most important thing." Then another clip of Jessica, laughing. "Don't worry, I've got it all planned out. 2 years of marriage, then I'll have enough to start my own lifestyle brand without him." It went on for 7 minutes. 7 minutes of their own words, their own greed, their own contempt, broadcast in perfect, high-fidelity audio for everyone they had ever known to hear. The final clip was the one from the rehearsal dinner. Her voice, echoing through the silent theater. "If he starts blubbering, I swear to God, I'll turn around and walk away." When the audio ended, the silence in the room was absolute. Every eye was on the 5 women trapped in the spotlight. They were frozen, their faces masks of pure, unadulterated horror. I finally let go of Jessica's hand. I took the microphone from the officiant. "A good production requires a talented and committed cast," I said, my voice resonating through the theater. "And as the producer and director of this particular show, I have come to the conclusion that my leading lady and her supporting cast are unprofessional, untrustworthy, and fundamentally unsuited for their roles." I looked directly at Jessica. "The part of my wife is no longer available to you. Your contract is terminated." Then I turned to the stunned audience. The wedding is, of course, canceled. However, the reception, or as I am now calling it, the wrap party, will proceed as scheduled, next door. Please enjoy the open bar, the food, and the band. I believe we have something to celebrate after all, the closing of a very bad show. Final update: it has been a week since the performance. The fallout has been, to put it mildly, biblical. The scene at the theater after my announcement was chaos. Jessica's father tried to lunge at me, but he was held back by my groomsmen. Jessica just stood there, completely catatonic, until her mother led her away. But the bridesmaids, they were the ones who truly broke. They started crying. Not quiet, delicate tears, but ugly, gasping sobs of pure humiliation. They were trapped on a stage under the glare of a spotlight, with hundreds of people staring at their ruined faces and their ruined reputations. They tried to flee, but the aisle was clogged with stunned guests. It was the most satisfying standing ovation I have ever witnessed. The wrap party was, surprisingly, a huge success. About half the guests left, mostly from her side of the family. But my family, my friends, and even some of her more distant relatives who had never liked her, stayed. The mood shifted from shock to a kind of wild celebratory relief. People kept coming up to me, shaking my hand, telling me I had done the right thing. The band played, we danced, we drank. It was the best wedding I have ever been to. The days that followed were a storm of communication, all of which I routed through my lawyer. Jessica's parents threatened to sue me for, well, they weren't sure what for. Humiliation, I think. My lawyer politely informed them that all I had done was play a recording of their daughter's own words in a private venue I had rented. There was nothing they could do. The financial consequences for them have been severe. I had a rock-solid prenuptial agreement, which is now void, of course, because we never got married. Every single vendor, every deposit, every payment for that $100,000 wedding was in my name from my accounts. They had contributed nothing. I canceled the honeymoon suite, the flower arrangements, everything that could be canceled. The non-refundable deposits were a loss, but I consider it the best money I have ever spent. I also sent a final, itemized invoice to Jessica's father. It was for the acting classes, the headshots, the networking events, and all the other investments I had made in his daughter's failed career. The total was just over $75,000. I didn't expect him to pay it. It was just a final, professional courtesy. A closing statement for our co-production. As for the bridesmaids, their social lives are in utter ruin. The audio recording, which was leaked online by an anonymous source, has made them pariahs. Olivia has apparently deleted all of her social media and is refusing to leave her apartment. The others are in a similar state. Jessica, I heard, had a complete breakdown. Her parents had to take her out of the city to stay with relatives. The lifestyle brand she was planning to build on the foundation of my money is now just a sad, pathetic punchline. And me, I'm here. In this beautiful hotel room that was supposed to be the start of a lie. Instead, it's the start of something true. My life. On my terms. My revenge wasn't loud or violent, it was theatrical. I just built a stage, provided the lighting and sound, and let the antagonists speak their own lines. And in the end, they got exactly what they deserved. A bad review.